Oh my gosh, guys. Okay, so you ever notice, and I'm pretty sure a lot of you can relate, but you ever notice that every generation that comes up, the generation previous or the generation prior, always looks back at the younger generation. You always hear the same terms. They're younger, they're weaker, they're softer. I mean, we hear those. I grew up hearing them from like my uncles, my tios, and I mean, it goes on, and that was like the trending thing. But now, not only are we getting softer or weaker, apparently now we're getting dumber. Yes, because the headline is officially out. Gen Z is officially the dumbest generation. Can you believe that? Yeah. Anyways, Gen Z is officially the dumbest generation. The headline is out, guys. But here's the thing. I want to say before we start jumping to all these crazy reactions, because I'm seeing it now, as always, let's kind of dive into this with some common sense. Let's kind of apply some shared understanding, because we got to remember chaos. We're learning this now. Chaos loves a headline. It loves that bumper sticker to just kind of get you hooked, get you feeling something. So before you start calling up your grandkids and nieces and nephews and then kind of smirking at them, let's remember that truth kind of takes a little work nowadays. And let's find some common sense. Comment down below, guys. Hit the links, get yourself some merch. If you're new to the channel, like and subscribe, guys. Be part of the Comfort Chaos community. It's always appreciated, guys. So thank you so much. Let's get into it. Recent data suggests that Generation Z is scoring lower on certain standardized cognitive tests compared to previous generations at the same age. These tests were in the categories of memory, attention, reading comprehension, and numerations. Now, for decades, test scores have always been on a steady climb, something called the Flynn Effect. Now, in some areas, they're flattening, even declining. But I want to find out. I want to apply some common sense and some understanding. Is this really accurate? What you're telling me, is it actually true? Because what you're telling me is very convenient for today's age. But is it true? But here's what nobody wants to ask. Are they actually less intelligent? Or are we just measuring intelligence with the tools built for a different world? Are we just too much old school that we're comparing them to? We have to remember, standardized testing basically is designed to measure linear thinking, memorization, structured focus. But that all works for us. Gen Z, on the other hand, has grown up completely different. It's a different battlefield for them. They've grown up with infinite tabs, multiple screens, information overload with just a click of a finger, algorithm-driven dopamine hits, literally on an hourly basis. I didn't grow up with none of that, and I know some of you can relate. My father didn't grow up with that. His father didn't grow up with that. We had to go and find the information. Here, it's just circling around you and you can just pick it up. That's what Gen Z has to deal with. So, they don't process information the way we do. They process information differently. But to me, you got to ask yourself, does that automatically make them dumb? Or does it mean the environment has now changed? So we are at a time now where I would call it an environmental warfare. You really want to find the source. Environmental warfare, that's what comes to mind, because the environment has shifted. And everyone, this generation is just adapting. Because you got to remember, this generation is a generation of distraction. But you got to ask yourself, who placed that distraction there? The distraction of literally 15, 10-second content loops at a constant basis. on your screens. Literally on your screens. Decisions were made to swap out textbooks for tablets. Yeah, take out books, changes in curriculum, and replace it with tablets. Implement technology for feasibility, saving money. But when we made those decisions, or when those decisions were made, was there any plan or strategy in place? Was there a factoring of the long-term effect based off data trends? Or was it just a quick decision to save a quick buck? So, you got to really ask yourself, are you shocked that focus, and that's what it really comes down to, focus is declining? But is that really a character flaw, or is it more of conditioning? That's what I would say. That more falls in a conditioning sense. But here is the most uncomfortable truth that no one's talking about. No one's talking about. And this is where it really comes down to, when I talk about this all the time, ownership. Okay, so let's own it. Own your failures. Own your successes. So now, we as adults got to own this, because here's the one question. Who created that environment that this generation is currently in? Who created it? That's right, the generation before them. That's what you really got to ask yourself. Who created that environment? So the IQ test measures something, but not everything. And all these tests and studies that they did, yeah, of course they're going to give you data. But here's something that we have to analyze that data. Don't just take it and then roll with it. Let's figure out the issue. Let's find a solution here. In order for us to do that, we got to find the issue. Because Gen Z, here's some other facts. Gen Z is definitely more digitally fluent than any generation before them. That's a fact. Gen Z is starting businesses younger. That's another fact you got to accept. They navigate tech ecosystems most adults can't even operate. That's another fact. They edit videos. They code. They build brands before they're 25 years old. I mean, just look at how many Gen Zers are millionaires, and very successful because they started businesses young. They use resources. They use technology. And to me, that's not stupidity. That is adaptation. That is what you do. You adapt. You adapt to your environment. You adapt to the times. You adapt to be successful. Times change, you change. And if you don't change, you're just going to get left behind. So you got to ask yourself then, are there problems? Of course there's going to be problems. Of course there's problems. Attention spans, of course, they're shrinking. Their attention spans are literally designed for 10 to 15 seconds. After that, it's like they need something else. I have yet to see a Gen Zer sit through a 2-hour movie. Reading depth on the decline, big time. Big time. I mean, how many people have you guys interacted nowadays, especially Gen Zers, and ask them, hey, what's your favorite book? What's the last book you read? That's a rare occasion nowadays, and that's a reality. And then, of course, the number one thing, mental health challenges are on the rise, because of the fact that, yes, you got screens in your face. You got algorithms dictating and just giving you that dopamine hit on an hourly basis throughout the day. So what is the long-term effects? That's what you got to ask yourself, and that's what we're getting. This is a result of a long-term effect. So when somebody labels a generation and they put the heading dumbest generation, to me, I'm going to see that and I'm going to think, well, dude, that's more just lazy thinking. That's the issue. Let's find the solution now. Let's be a part of the solution. Where did we go wrong? What led to this end state? That's what we got to ask ourselves. But of course, nobody does. They don't want you to critical think. In fact, it's like they rely on the fact that you don't have analytical skills whatsoever. They rely on the fact that you cannot critical think and will not critical think. They just rely on giving you a reaction, and they're going to manipulate and control your reaction. They give you a bumper sticker. But they're not going to give you all these facts. They're not going to give you all these data. They're not going to give you the rest of it that goes with it. And that's what we should ask. Why? Because that is a common sense approach towards understanding the situation and coming up with a solution. That's what leaders do. That's what leadership is. So when performance drops in my line of work, I can't blame the soldiers. Not first. I'm going to go and I'm going to evaluate the training environment. I'm going to evaluate those soldiers' leaders. I'm going to see, okay, the performance is dropping. How much ownership are you applying in your role and your responsibility of a leader in charge of this soldier? Are you providing the purpose? Are you providing the direction? Are you providing the motivation? Are you owning your role? And are you making decisions are they betterment for you, or are they betterment for your team and for those coming up under you, for those that you lead? So there's a lot of different factors. But no, sometimes that soldier can be in an environment that is constricting their performance. And that's what leaders got to do. And that's how I look at things. You guys know this. Here at Comfort and Chaos, that's just what we do. Why? Because it helps give me a common sense approach. And I try to share it with you guys. Because right now, that's what's lacking, that critical thinking, that common sense analysis of things. Look at both sides. Let's look at this with shared understanding before we make a quick decision. Let's make it from a logical sense rather than an emotional sense. So in this sense, when cognitive scores are declining, when focus is declining, we really have to ask ourselves, is that truly a generational insult? Or is it more of a societal warning for us all? So no, in my opinion, and you're hearing it first, Gen Z isn't officially the dumbest generation. I'm not going to be the first to jump on that brand. Now, are they challenged? Yes, but who put them there? Who created that environment for them? We did. All right, so I can't just apply that to them, as the result. We got to remember, I wouldn't classify them as the dumbest generation. I would classify them more as the fully digitized generation. That's what I would classify them as, a fully digital generation, a generation that is raised in chaos, raised in distraction, and raised in constant algorithm warfare that I know you and I see. But imagine a generation coming up and growing up in that every day. We don't know what these kids got to go through every day. We don't know what the thought process they engage. I'm just telling you, these are things we have to factor. And now we're shocked that they just think differently, that we got to put this label on them that they're the dumbest generation. I can't jump on that train, guys. And I'm sorry if that offends some of you guys. But the real question shouldn't be, are they dumb? The real question is, what are we training them for? That's the real question. That's something we have to remember. Why? Because history repeats itself, right? And what does history tell us? That every generation inherits some type of chaos, right? That's a historical fact. So now, what are we preparing them for? How are we preparing them? And for what chaos? Because what they build from that chaos, that's what's going to truly define them. We have to remember that. So don't just jump on the bumper stickers. Apply yourself. Gain some understanding. And if any of you have a Gen Zer in your house, sit them down. Have a conversation. Get to learn the way they think. Crazy times. But hey, guys, I just want you to know, if you're new to the channel, thank you so much. Hit the subscribe, guys. Remember, hey, I'm Gabe. This is Comfort and Chaos. And remember this, everybody has a story. I'll see you on the next video, team.